So during my closing argument, I told the jury that I thought the evidence was overwhelming, that in fact Mr. Smollett had faked a hate crime and then lied to the police about it, and then compounded his crimes by lying to the jury during the course of this trial and insulting their intelligence. That's what I told the jury in my closing argument. With the resounding verdict we just received from this jury after one day of deliberations, in which they found Mr. Smollett guilty of virtually all charges of doing exactly what we said he did, of reporting a fake crime to the Chicago Police Department as a real crime. That verdict was a resounding message by the jury that in fact Mr. Smollett did exactly what we said he did. And what I think is important about this verdict is that a lot of you from Chicago know that it was a couple years ago when the court system came to me and wanted me to become special prosecutor because there was a feeling that things that had happened in the past, that there never was a public trial, and that this controversial events that occurred regarding Mr. Smollett and what he did to this city and what he did to the Chicago Police Department never had a chance to put it in front of a jury and let a jury decide, after hearing all the evidence, whether what Mr. Smollett was right or wrong, because it's very controversial. I agreed to do that because I felt it was also important for the Cook County judicial system to get a trial. Whether we won or lost the trial was not the issue. What was the issue is that what Mr. Smollett had done in this city should be aired in front of a public trial where all the evidence that comes out, all the talk on social media may or may not be true, but the true facts, I thought, needed to come out, and we did it. And we became special prosecutors, and the rest is history. We've now won this case, and I want to point out that there's an enormous effort was put in when I agreed to take the special prosecutor role. That meant that my law firm became special prosecutors, and the men and women around me right now in the last 2.5 years have worked so hard to develop the evidence, present it to a grand jury, go through a pandemic, wait to get a trial, which we wanted, and finally in the last 10 days, these lawyers have had a chance to present this evidence to a jury, and we've come away with the jury agreeing that they should have heard the case, and in fact he was guilty. Thank you very much. Questions?
Could you just confirm for everyone what that 6 charges that he's found not guilty of?
Yeah, the 6th count, well, I'm not going to speculate on why a jury did that, but that 6th count was an event that occurred 2 weeks after the event. So the other false statements were made to the police right on the day of January 29th on 3 different interviews, and that counted for 5 of the 6 counts, which he was found not guilty in every one of those. The 6th count was 2 weeks later, on February 13th, at a police station, and it may be because it was after the event. I don't know what the reason was. It wasn't that significant to our case, and has no impact on the case whatsoever.
Do you know which specific charge it was?
Yeah.
Aggravated battery?
It was, yeah, so the answer is yes, you're right. It was the aggravated battery, which means that there has to be a mask, and we charged that because the police officer testified that that's when Smollett told the police officer he was a mask. But whatever the reasons are, this jury, by the way, this jury worked so hard, and for Mr. Smollett to get up in front of them and lie for hours and hours and hours, that really compounded his misconduct. And quite frankly, when I saw that happen in the courtroom, at least for me, as a trial lawyer that spent my life in the courtroom, we don't expect defendants to do that. Defendants have a right to go to trial. Defendants have a right to argue that their case has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But defendants do not have the right to go in front of a jury and lie under oath. Mr. Smollett would not have lost this case, as he did today, unless the jury found that he lied to them. And so that was something that I was very proud that this jury came to the conclusion that he's guilty, and the fact that he came up with a completely ridiculous story to explain his misconduct did not apparently have an impact on the jury's verdict.
How does the perjury charge get handled at this point?
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
How do you handle that? That is perjury. How do you handle that at this point?
Well, first of all, I don't I don't know the answer to that question. I will say that over the years, if someone is convicted in a court of law by a jury, normally follow-up perjury charges do not normally occur. That's just the way it is. But I'm not going to predict what's going to happen here. We just got the verdict 30 minutes ago, and let's see what happens.
Dan, in all honesty, any disappointment in not getting all six?
No. I mean, I don't. I mean, look, the fact that you put in 6 counts or 16 counts, when someone is found guilty of 5 out of 6 counts, it has no impact on our case whatsoever and is insignificant.
Why did you push Mr. Webb out his vindication for the Chicago Police Department?
So I would like to, that's a good question. Thank you for asking the question. You heard me in my closing argument. I talked to them about what I said into my closing argument is that for Mr. Smollett in this city, with this police department, to have reported this crime on January 29th, you saw what this city did.